I think the first message was, once we realised the inert value that we had that we translated in customer value, and quite substantial customer value, the first message was, gentlemen, at the moment you are treating us, you're making us behave at the runt end of all capital projects. In actual fact, if we only have time to educate your consultants, your direct engineering staff, or be involved with projects ourselves, we think we can take real power notes out of your capital projects, out of your cost of operations up front. Not only that, because we're involved at the front end, because consultants are using outdated solutions, when we actually get to the project, which is after it's gone by consultants, been approved by our contractors, and usually 8 or 9 contractors, we do all sorts of optioneering. In fact, on a case study with sister companies, we do 8 times more estimating than any other Saint-Gobain company in the pipeline division. The cost to change the original design is high, both in mistakes being made and also missed opportunities to use new technology. And I think that I'm going to show you a chart now of some of the value projects we had at first base. So after, I think, about 3 or 4 months of working on the value wheel and looking at the issues that our clients had, and then how we, through our product offerings and solutions, could create real, tangible and non-tangible value for our clients. They were some staggering numbers. I won't go through each of these product offerings and solutions, but I'll use 2 as an example. I use universal anchor gaskets. Basically, what universal is, it's a joint system, spigot and socket, which you join the pipe and then it has end load bearing capabilities, doesn't pull apart. Well, up to that point in time in the world of ductile iron, if you wanted to have an end load joint, you either needed to use big concrete thrust structures to lock everything in, or you needed large flange or mechanical joints with lots of nuts and bolts on. So suddenly here we were with something called universal. And as I said, we launched it on the market thinking, well, it's a good idea. I don't think we're going to sell a lot because it's quite a pricey idea, but it does cost a lot, so we'll add our margin to the top and maybe we'll get a premium. Lots of features and benefits, let's go out. And that was 3 months before we actually went through the Breese training. Suddenly realised that together with universal and anchor gaskets, we had a real winner in terms of an offering compared to our competitors, and were able to take and provide true value and reduce capital costs on major pipeline schemes for our customers. So, for example, universal, you don't need to work in the trench, smaller trenches. Universal, you don't need concrete thrust blocks, one hell of a cost reduction. Universal anchor gaskets, you don't need to do lots of nuts and bolts and tighten up, which takes a long time, so lower contracting costs. And for the first time with universal, we could actually go and have a system that allowed us to go underground in no-dig techniques rather than open trench. And all of that added up to a considerable amount of value between anchor gaskets and universal of some £750,000 in an average spend of a water company in an average usage on average capital projects. Not only that, as these guys were now getting carbon reduction targets from Ofwat, we were able to show them that with the reduction in carbon, with the reduction of the amount of trench material they had to be disposed of by smaller trenches, that they actually had a large constructional carbon embedment saving as well. So some 1,500 tonnes per year per water company of CO2 saving. So from a company going and talking about widgets and features and benefits, we're beginning to get the attention of boardrooms in terms of what we can actually provide. Larry Beard, mentioned today. Larry Beard came from the automobile industry, Ford, Fiat, MG Rover, and he is not, I don't think, I've heard today, he's not the contractor's best friend. He certainly wasn't the manufacturer's best friend. His avowed aim was to destroy cosy relationships, and he particularly chose ourselves. We're a major supplier, major spend part of Severn Trent, and actually he was right. We did have a cosy relationship, but he was out to find some alternatives and to get rid of that, and particularly seeing that Saint-Gobain out. He's also the industry champion of online procurement, and if you Google Larry Beard, you'll see all the papers he's done. He's gone around other water companies to try and get a collective approach to this, co-owned portals, etc., etc. And he was telling us that in February of 2008, when the tender documents came out, that e-auction would be an integral part of the ductile iron pipe and fittings framework tender. I went to see Larry before that tender and tried to articulate with him our value, and he glazed over. He didn't want to know. He was on a mission. He was on a mission to beat us up on price. But however, he used the words to me. He said, "I don't believe it, Paul." And luckily I asked him the question. I said, "Well, what would it take, Larry, for you to believe that this value is low risk to you and real, and you can get it?" He said, "Well, if the MD of one of our partner contractors, a guy called Dan Holland, comes in and tells me that your value is real, I'll believe it." So I thought, well, there's an opportunity here to try and change something. What made it worse in this tender situation, I think most of you were aware last year, saw a tremendous increase in commodity prices around the world. So not only were we tendering to Severn Trent in February and March of last year, but we actually put the initial tender in 8% higher because iron ore, scrap metal, coke, shipping and all gone up. But actually mid-process, in about May of that year, we had to go further mid-tender increase of 16%. And that went down like a house on fire, believe you me. But what happened? I went back to the office, I rang a guy called Dan Holland, hadn't spoken to him before, and over the phone I said, "Dan, can you help me please? I need some senior validation of our value creation." And he said, "Oh, who's asked that?" He said, "Larry Beard of Severn Trent." I said, "Will you help me?" He said, "Yeah, I think I can." And he actually gave us two of his team. A guy called Stuart Fraser, who was regional director for Severn Trent at the time, but then moved as regional director to North for Enterprise, and a guy called Mooney was the operations manager. And within 4 weeks, they'd assessed, albeit from their experience in the industry and a lot of desk assessment, our value creation across a whole series of projects. And we told Severn Trent that with their spend pattern, we thought on average we could deliver £950,000 of year-on-year value creation. Enterprise said 1.3 million. Fantastic. Was it a very scientific survey and analysis? No, it wasn't. But it was people in the industry saying, yes, in the ballpark, we think you're right. So the first thing I did when I got that is I copied the Enterprise letter, not only to Larry Beard, but also to Tony Ray, the Chief Executive of Severn Trent, and said, "I'm pleased to say that we followed your advice on how we should validate Saint-Gobain PAM's value contribution or possible unlocking of value to Severn Trent, and please find the findings." Only to get an email back from Larry saying, "Well, we're in the middle of a tender process, can't talk to you." However, 4 weeks later, the buyer, Helen Spears, emailed all the bidders with the same email, saying, and to me this is the proudest part of I think the journey I've had so far, "We no longer intend to utilise e-auction process as part of the tender adjudication, as we do not believe that this is an appropriate tool to demonstrate added value potential of each potential supplier." And in fact they changed the adjudication to a point where they actually said to two of their contractors, "Send in theoretical projects to all bidders and see what happens." And so we're being judged on 2 theoretical projects that had a bill of quantities, a pipeline design specification, to see whether we interpreted the project and helped the contractor reduce the total installed costs. They'd actually inbuilt 2 deliberate mistakes into the design. And luckily, my team, without knowing that the process was happening, caught the 2 mistakes and went back with savings on one scheme, admittedly only 7.5%, but on another scheme of 25%, nothing to do with the unit rate of the pipe itself. And at the end of the day, we had a debrief from Severn Trent, as did our competitors, and we were told we got full marks on the value creation. So from absolute below ground performance to some real demonstrable wins in a very short period of time. Okay, things are changing in the water industry, we believe. Sorry. Traditional model of approach is, or certainly purchasing, is a single point approach. We were talking with Martin, I was talking with Martin earlier. Larry Beard is insisting that everyone goes through purchasing. Don't talk to engineering, don't talk to maintenance, don't talk to anyone else, you come through me. Very much a commoditisation, lowest price, all the things that we discussed. Very risk averse as well. They'd rather have 1% off the unit price than believe there's anything else more to grab. And in fact, they are targeted by their exec teams on reduction by percentage across product categories. So they're only doing what they're being told to do by their bosses. Absolute little integration of, well, even different departments within water companies, let alone procurement. So, I mean, just to give you an example, you have capital stores, you have emergency stores, You have operational stores, you have contractor stores, you have distribution stores, because there's very little integration within water companies.